Welcome to Atlanta News First Behind the Investigation. I'm Andy Perotti. Joining me now is Chief Investigative Reporter Brendan Keefe. Keefe, how are you doing?
That's good to see you, Andy.
So your investigation tonight, when you told me about it, my jaw dropped. I can't believe what you found. Tell us more.
Yeah, so we did this investigation last year called In Plain Sight. It was about the DEA doing these sort of surprise searches at the airport gate. Just as you're getting on the plane, after you've scanned your boarding pass, they ask to see in your bag. And if you don't give them consent, they keep turning the screws, saying you're going to miss your flight if you don't give consent. And most people simply give consent. We told people in that initial investigation, hey, you have a right to say, am I being detained? If the answer is no, you can walk away. If you say, am I free to go? And if they say yes, then, they have to have probable cause or reasonable suspicion to detain you. They have to have probable cause or a warrant or your consent to search your bag. And so what happens if someone says no and sticks to their guns? We now know because someone saw our investigation, and here's the result.
Set your bag down, and then you can walk on the plane. You can do that, but
No,
you can't
I'm
take your
not.
bag.
You're not with the, what do you call it? I've seen these videos on YouTube before. You're not with the.
I'm the DEA. I'm the government.
The first distinct thing I remember was pulling my phone and saying, I am the government.
He actually said, I am the government?
Yeah, he says, I am the government, and he was very assertive about it.
I'm the government.
This is Officer Nick Nimskern with the Montgomery, Ohio Police Department working the Cincinnati airport as part of a plainclothes DEA task force, stopping David, a New York-bound passenger, after he and his bag had already cleared TSA screening.
Jeez Louise, why are you so angry?
I'm not angry. I just want my rights to be respected. That's all.
Well, I just told you you can walk on, but you can set your bag down. And we'll just have a dog.
Where else you're gonna? Am I being detained right now?
Not you, but your
Am
bag.
I free to go?
Not your bag. I've
Okay,
told you like
I'm gonna
20
walk
times.
then.
You can't do that.
Am I being detained?
Robert, you
Then am I free to go?
Was your heart pounding? Were you nervous? Were you confident in your position?
Well, I was unbelievably nervous. In fact, the first thing I did was on the plane was go back to my phone and just see, is this really happening? And did I remember this correctly?
You mentioned seeing a YouTube video. That was our investigation you saw, right?
Yeah, that was your investigation.
Atlanta News First Investigates tracked plainclothes drug agents through the Atlanta airport, watching and recording them searching passengers at boarding gates looking for cash to seize. In court filings, the government called these cold consent encounters.
How many innocent people do you have to search before you find what you're looking for?
Sir, I've got nothing to say to you.
Yeah, I distinctly remembered a couple of pieces that stood out. I think one of them was asking the question, am I free to go? The second thing that I really remember is that I was free to walk away if so.
We do have a completely full flight this afternoon.
Once on board, David checked our story again on his phone.
I actually saw the Investigative TV news article pop up too. And I remember thinking, well, at least I did this right. You have the right to walk away if they're not detaining you.
Agent Nimskern followed him on the plane and mistakenly grabbed another passenger's bag.
Oh, that's my. Hey.
That's yours. Where's your bag at?
I don't consent to search, sir.
You don't have to consent. Where's your backpack at? Where is it? Under your seat?
It got put away, but I don't consent to being searched.
I don't care what your consent stuff. You want to watch the dog?
Yes,
you want
please.
To sit in your seat?
I would like to watch the
Then
dog.
come out.
It was definitely embarrassing, humiliating. I'm sure everybody's wondering, is this guy a terrorist? Is he bringing bombs on board?
I'm not trying to be a jerk. I just don't like being searched.
You're not trying to be a jerk.
No, I don't
might be
know
the
who
biggest
you are.
jerk since I've ever met out here, honestly.
That's fair, dude.
The airport is not a Constitution-free zone. You retain your Fourth Amendment rights when you're in the airport.
Kirby Thomas West is an attorney with the D.C.-based Institute for Justice, now representing David.
Any of us, and even a constitutional lawyer knowing all my rights, there's no guarantees that you're going to be safe from this kind of search or seizure.
One thing he said is, I don't need your consent. Is that true?
The only way that law enforcement can conduct a search without your consent is if there's probable cause of a crime.
Am I under suspicion of a crime right now? Do you have probable cause?
So we have a lot of money and drugs going out of every airport
Understood.
to New York.
Okay.
It's an influx of it.
Am I being suspected of a crime? I just want this to be reported.
I don't know.
Do you have reasonable suspicion? Do you have probable cause? And he says, I don't know.
Do you have probable cause for a
I have
search?
probable cause for a dog to walk up and smell your bag, yes.
The canine at first walks right by David's bag without stopping. Then,
I saw him gesture back to my bag, and I remember him just doing something with his fingers. Upon looking at the video again, you can hear him making that kissy sound.
Come on. You see that? You got it recorded. Don't edit that part out of the video either. So he sat on your bag.
Okay.
Is there money, drugs, or weapons in your bag? You did all this just for what?
Just,
This is what we do. Let me tell you, we've been doing this for a long time. Years and years and years.
I
Longer than
understand
probably you've
that.
been alive.
I respect you.
We're within our rights, or I wouldn't do what I did.
Is my flight going to be?
Okay, that's your plane.
All right. I just did some research on this when I was on the plane, but
Well, Google's great. I'm telling you, if I were you, I'd call your lawyer and see what he wants you to do. I know you're annoyed, and I'm annoyed too that you caused such a scene for something so silly.
I don't think standing up for your rights is silly.
You actually disobeyed me, disrespected me.
And also, it's weird that he puts this whole scene on me.
We wouldn't do this and be doing it across the country if it wasn't legal.
We wouldn't be doing this all over the country if it wasn't legal.
Well, first, this isn't legal, and second, that they do this all over the country, but it was extremely validating to hear it from the horse's mouth.
You walked off the plane. Fact check, bro.
Basically, do you want a receipt for the bag?
You want a receipt for the
all right. You guys can have consent to search it.
Before he searches my bag, the officer says, "I'm sure that there's nothing in your bag anyways."
I'm sure there's nothing in here at this point.
At the end of the day, there was nothing illegal in your bag at all.
No, he searched my bag very thoroughly, and nothing was found.
This is just going to prove that your dog has been trained by you guys to signal whenever you need to signal.
Maybe smelling something residual from something else. I don't know. I'm not a dog. Are you a dog?
Was there ever an apology? Did they say we're sorry? How did they end the encounter?
They laughed at me.
They laughed at you.
Yeah, they laughed at me. I asked him, "So what do I do with my flight?" And he said, "That's your own problem now."
Brendan, this is wild. This guy didn't have anything, didn't have any money in the bag.
Yeah, it was actually one of the first things you asked me when you saw my story is, how much money did they find? There was no money in his bag. He did this to stand up for his rights. And I asked him, why did you do this? And if you had nothing to hide, and in fact, many of the comments we received on AtlantaNewsFirst.com and on our YouTube channel were, hey, if you have nothing to hide, why not just let them see in your bag? Because this is the United States of America. The Fourth Amendment says you are to be free from these unwarranted searches of your person and your effects. So he is right that your things are just like your person. There is no difference even inside an airport. They have to have your consent, or they have to have probable cause or a warrant signed by the judge. They didn't have any of those things, and they searched his bag anyway.
So tell me the difference, like if I'm going through security and TSA wants to look inside my bag versus like a DEA agent. Tell me the difference there.
Yeah, I didn't know the difference before we started investigating this. I figured, well, in the airport, the rules are different.
Yeah.
In order to fly, it's not a right, it's a privilege to fly. And in order to fly post 9/11, we all consent to have our bags searched by the government. The TSA, after all, are government agents. They're not law enforcement, though. A lot of people don't realize they're wearing a uniform, they're wearing a badge. They don't have any kind of arrest rights. They're not sworn police or federal agent. They can't enforce the law. They're administrative government employees, and that search is administrative rather than criminal. Even if they find evidence of a crime when doing a TSA search, they have to call in the police to then take the next step. Now, they can't unsee what they see in the X-ray machine. But if the police approach you or the DEA approaches you in the airport and they say, we want to see in your bag, that falls under the Fourth Amendment. Not to turn this into a constitutional law class, but the Fourth Amendment means they do have to ask for your consent. They do need probable cause. They do need a warrant if you say, I don't want you to see in the bag. Now, can you let them see in your bag if you want to? Absolutely, if you think it's going to help. If they find $5,000 or more in your bag, even if you can account for it on the spot, they are going to seize that money. We have never seen a case where they found more than $5,000 in all of my research. I never saw a case where they're like, oh, cash, and someone is able to pull up on their phone on the spot, which is what these agents want you to do. Show your bank account where you withdrew it. Show your meeting with the car seller you're going to buy the car from on the other end of the deal. They still seize the money every single time and then claim it's drug money just because you're flying to a major city. Guess what? Every major city is a drug hub. New York, Atlanta, Los Angeles. If you're flying into any of those cities, particularly on a last minute ticket, they think that's enough evidence to take your money with no evidence of drugs found.
I'm so glad that you interviewed him, and I'm so glad the Institute for Justice connected you two. Tell me why he didn't want to be identified. Most of the stories you've done in this series, that the people were seen like on camera. This guy decided to hide his face. Tell me about that.
Yeah, and normally, look, we always want to be upfront with the viewer of why are we concealing someone's identity. We would prefer not to. And we never promise an outcome, we promise a process. So I said, here's what we're going to do, because he wanted to keep everything but his first name out of it. It's his real first name, David. But his company, and he's basically a high-level executive, his company does business with the government. And they don't want it to affect their government contracts. This was less about fear from the DEA, because the DEA already knows who he is.
So last year, you profiled 2 lawmakers on opposing parties that were interested in filing and moving forward with some legislation to address this. Any idea where that stands?
Yeah, the bill is still live. Unfortunately, they have until the end of this year because, as you know, Congress goes in 2-year, or the House of Representatives goes in 2-year sessions. So, this particular Congress, if you will, expires at the end of the year when the new Congress is sworn in January. All the bills that didn't make it to the floor of the House of Representatives are going to be reset. Now, this particular bill has been filed time and time again to fix this civil asset forfeiture problem, to put a larger burden on the government if they want to seize your money. Right now, that bill is live. It looked really good, like it was going to make it. It was sent to the House floor for a full vote, but it's up to the Speaker of the House to actually bring it to a vote. Bipartisan support, but already some, that's right. There were 9 co-sponsors who were Democrats, 9 co-sponsors who were Republicans. Unfortunately, one has already died. Sheila Jackson Lee from Houston, Texas, passed away. She was one of the co-sponsors. That's how long this problem's been going on, that literally lawmakers trying to fix it aren't surviving to see it passed.
Wow. Brenda, this is one heck of an update. And it's, oftentimes when we do these stories, we put them on TV, we put them on the web, and we wonder, all right, who's watching, who's paying attention? And this guy is one of them. And it's got to be a little validating, right?
Oh, it's absolutely validating. But also I realize he said to me, I would not have stood my ground had you not told me I could. Well, that's validating to hear, but also we caused him quite a bit of inconvenience because he said he would have assumed that they're entitled to look in the bag if we hadn't told him he could ask, am I free to go? What's really interesting is this exposed a huge hole in the government's argument. You may remember that we profiled a couple of people. One would be Clayton English, the other would be Eric Andre. They're comedians who were separately searched by the Clayton County Police on the jet bridge at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. They sued in federal court. Nothing was seized from them, but they sued basically saying that they were seized. Their person, were prevented from boarding their flight. The federal judge threw that case out, as many of these cases have been thrown out, on the grounds that, dismissed the entire case on the grounds that these men were free to walk away. He said these were consensual searches, and in one case, they gave consent, and the other one, the officers figured out who he was and let him go anyway. And the judge is saying they weren't really seized. They weren't really prevented from boarding their flight, even though they were sort of blocked in the jet bridge. This blows a hole in that argument. It blows a hole in the DEA's argument. It blows a hole in the Justice Department argument that these are consensual searches. Because if consent is the only choice, and even in David's case, it was his only choice, because at the very end, they're like, okay, now we're going to go get a warrant, and you're going to be here all day because it might take all day for us to get a warrant. There is Supreme Court case law that says you don't have to wait. Police cannot extend a stop in order to wait for a drug dog to get there. Police cannot extend a stop and prevent you from leaving while they go get a warrant. Preventing this guy from going about his travels, of course, they're going to argue he freely got off the plane. Important to point out, because we didn't say, we did on the air, but we didn't say just now, that the DEA has refused to even respond to our requests for an interview for over a year now. And then first they said no, and now they've just stopped responding to us altogether. And the Montgomery police chief, on behalf of Agent Nimskern, because he's still a sworn officer there in that department, said, no, we're not going to be making a comment on this. So they wouldn't talk about it. They'll never talk about it. And it makes you wonder why they won't talk about it.
Wow. Brendan Keefe, Chief Investigative Reporter, Atlanta News First. Thank you. And to watch more of Brendan's reporting on this issue, go to our website. It's called In Plain Sight. It's a fantastic series you got to watch. It's on our website, atlantanewsfirst.com, and anywhere where you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time.